What's up, Coach Matt and YouGoProBaseball here again with Isaac Hess, and we're going to talk about in this video how to play catch the right way, because you can play catch to loosen your arm up and get loose. Obviously that's what you're trying to do, but there's a lot more that goes into it, and we're going to talk about that in this video. But before we get into it, I want to share with you guys something that Isaac's got going on. It's called CageList, and basically it's the Airbnb of backyard batting cages. So if you have a batting cage and you're looking to rent it out, or you're just looking to rent some time in a batting cage and maybe the facility's too far from your house or whatever, you got to check out CageList. Really cool. Tell us real quick about what you got going on.
CageList just gives an opportunity for those baseball and softball families who have made the investment to make a backyard batting cage, opportunity to list it on the site for free and be able to rent it out as an option, an alternative to using the far away indoor facility. Now if somebody down the street has a backyard batting cage, you might be able to go use that, and the person who owns the cage can be able to make a side income from renting it out to local softball and baseball players. So if you have a cage, list it on our site. It takes about 10 minutes. It's free, super easy, and you'll be rolling.
I'll leave the link down below where you can check it out. Now, let's talk about warming up, throwing, playing catch. What are some of the things back in Los Angeles, California, where we train guys, made baseball, shout out. What are you doing, when you have your guys playing catch? What are you telling them? What do you expect from them?
So the first thing I would say when it comes to playing catch is, it's kind of a more holistic view about everything you do in the game. You want to have intent, right? You don't want to just go through the motions. The more intent that you have behind each and every rep that you take, the better you're going to get, the more optimal of a player you're going to be. So whether that is hitting in the cage, you'd rather go in there and have 25 swings that you're you have a lot of intention behind what you're doing and purpose behind each swing, rather than just take 200 of just lollygagging swings and feeling better about that. You got to make sure that you have intent. So I find it just kind of bad coaching advice to tell your guys, go down right field line and go warm up. Instead, we want to reformulate that vocabulary and rephrase that into saying, guys, go work on your throwing technique. Go get your arms loose and make sure that you guys are working on your technique. You're working on your mechanics. If you're a pitcher and you're always asking to throw bullpens, sometimes as a baseball coach, it's hard, it's challenging to be able to work in bullpens consistently into a practice. So if you're a pitcher that's serious about getting better at pitching, you should be working on picking your knee up, creating backside drive, keeping your front shoulder closed, keeping your arm, your front side, using your front side, and making sure that your elbow gets up. A good partner is going to consistently give you feedback if you're dropping down, sidearm, if you're flying open, if you're not moving your feet once you stretch back to long toss. As a good partner, you don't criticize, but you just constructively help your partner and say, hey, I'm seeing you drop down here, maybe just go like this. This is something that my partner would do for me a lot, throughout my pro career. We would just subtly, hey, your elbows drop and get it up. Front side, keep that front side closed longer, whatever it may be. But the whole point is have intent behind what you're doing. You will see that in pro ball. I mean, those guys are constantly sharpening their swords. They're never just going out and just kind of throwing. And you'll see a big difference between a well-coached team, a group of guys. You're not going to see them doing this. You're going to see them doing this. You're going to see their pitchers doing this, and they're going to try to be repeatable. So big tip for even high school coaches out there, if you're a freshman high school coach or a club coach, just rephrase the way that you think about that warming up. You want to make sure that you tell your players, go out there and optimize that 10 to 15 minutes. If you get 50 to 100, 150 throws, whatever you end up taking, try to make sure that all of those throws have some intent behind them.
We also think, too, a lot of the times, like, let's go warm up our arm. In reality, we should be hot already. We should have a sweat going already. We should warm up to throw, not throw to warm up. Right. So kind of have that in mind as well. Is there a specific progression that you go through with the warm up, or is it different for every guy, or is that something that you need to build along your career, like your own philosophy? Are you paying attention to your arm, feeling your arm, listening to your arm? You touch on some of that maybe?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I totally agree with that. Before I ever would start throwing, I usually have a drip of sweat going because of my movement preparation routine. You know, so often in high school, even in my junior college, our coach would say, go out to center field, make a big circle, and get your stretching in. And all we're doing is literally going through the motions, maybe counting to 10, spread your legs, count to 10. That's not a good way to stretch. That might work as you're starting to learn from a young age to have some sort of routine formulated, but ultimately you need to be moving your body if you're actually trying to make use of that time and you're not just going through the motions. When it comes to a specific progression, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. You know, a good tip for young players especially is to have them start playing catch from a very short distance. You'll often find that young players will want to back up right away and start throwing hard, start throwing their curveballs right away. Instead, tell them to plant their feet and see how many times they can throw and catch without moving their feet. Oftentimes I'll say, guys, I want you guys to get 20 throws in a row, catching and throwing without moving your feet. So they're turning their shoulder, they're turning their shoulders and making sure that they're staying put, because, you know, especially when you get guys that try to get out of the way of the ball. I know we made another video about teaching young kids who don't know how to catch very well, ways to get them to catch better. So make them plant their feet. They're not going to be able to get out of the way. You also, I've seen before, having them stand on a bucket. That to me is a little bit more dangerous. You can have them stand on something so that they have nowhere else to go and they have to stay behind the ball. With regards to the progression, a lot of times another one that we're going to do is start on a knee. You know, start on one knee all the way down to the knee, get those shoulders turned. After that, we're going to go into turning our shoulders from standing up. I do something called the wet noodle or figure 8, where I have my pitchers get their shoulders turning 3 times, feeling their arms loose. I will have them go like this. I say you got 3 joints. You got a wrist joint, and then we go like this. You got an elbow joint, and then we go like this. You got a shoulder joint. And I say I want you to be able to allow all 3 of those joints to work independently of one another. You don't want to be rigid when you throw. And if you look down the line and you see the guys that the ball's popping out of their hand, normally the ones that look the smoothest and the cleanest are the ones that have the ball pop out of their hand the best, because their body movement is the most fluid and efficient. They use even if they're a small guy, they're able to use their body very efficiently. Like Walker Buehler is a really good example of that. As you progress into long toss, you obviously, like, it depends on how old you are, but, you know, 13 years up and older, you want to start making sure that you're moving your feet. Shuffling once you get to about 90 feet at about, you know, 7 to 10 years old. When you're at about 50 feet, you want to make sure that you start moving your lower half and getting some momentum behind the ball. How often do you play long toss? I don't know, how often did you play long toss?
I was a big feel guy, so I always paid attention to my arm. Like, if I felt really good, I'd stretch it out a little bit. I wasn't a super long toss guy. I'll go about 120, 150 maybe at the longest. Yeah. But I always paid attention to my arm. If I felt sore, tired, tight, or hurting, I would back off that day. Maybe even not throw that day, depending on how I felt. So there was no specific, I had a plan that I was trying to attack, but I would always fall back on how do I feel that day and adjust from there.
I was exactly the same way. If I felt like I could throw long toss on any given day, I would try to push it as long as I felt good. As soon as my arms started saying, Isaac, it's time to chill a little bit, you know, that's all you got left in the tank today. I call that having a profound respect for your body and really being in tune and in sync with your body and listening to what it says, not just trying to, you know, kind of be a bulldog or a meathead and say, I'm throwing 300 feet today because the guy next to me is throwing 300 feet, I got to outdo him. No, that's not gonna keep you in the game for a long time. Instead, like John said, you got to make sure that you have a connection to how your arm feels every day, and that's going to be different all the time. You never really know.
Now, as a pitcher, when I came in, I would like to do like a flat ground if I was feeling up for it that day. What do you think about that? You like doing flat grounds afterwards or before, or what was your strategy with that?
Absolutely. I generally, as a starting pitcher, we're pitching every 5 days. In pro ball, I would be doing a flat ground at least twice, usually 1 to 2 times in between starts. And a flat ground, what's a flat ground? A flat ground could be anywhere from 15 to 25 pitches at about 75%. All you're trying to do is find the low part of the zone, throw strikes, command the fastball. Another pitcher is oftentimes your partner. He's down in a squat, and he's putting his hat down as the plate, and he's just setting up and trying to make a good target for you. You're trying to really feel out your mechanics and just fine tune things, and maybe even get some feedback from your partner if your partner is conscious and a good partner. So yeah, flat ground usually 1 to 2 times between starts, and then a real bullpen for about 30 to 50 pitches, again, depending on how you feel. It's all relative to how you feel. There's not a cut and dry way to do it, and you got to just make sure that you respect your body. When you're a younger guy, I think it's a good idea to be throwing a flat ground 2 to 3 times a week, because oftentimes younger guys don't have the opportunity to throw off of a mound very often. I hear that all the time. Like, you know, in our practice, we never really get to throw bullpens. So if you don't get to throw bullpens, you should be throwing a flat ground at least 2 times a week. If you have practice twice a week, throw a flat ground every practice. If those are the only 2 days that you're able to get your work in as a 12-year-old, make sure you throw a flat ground. Like, just have your pitcher get down. What's a flat ground? It's about, you know, if you're pitching from 60 feet, 6 inches, I usually did about 55, about a little shorter. It's a little less intensity, only about 75, 80%, maybe a little more if you're feeling good. And you're just focusing on commanding your pitches and working on grips, working on your lower half, working on fine tuning your mechanics.
Great stuff. I mean, main thing, just remember having that intention. You know, don't just go out there chucking balls, man. You're out there doing something. So I love it. If you guys got any questions, hop down in the comments section below. Let us know what you're working on to be a better thrower, be a better pitcher, whatever position you are. Let us know. We'll hop down there if you got any questions and try to help answer them best we can. Other than that, we got a bunch more videos coming, so be sure to check those out. And also, I'll leave the information for CageList and Made Baseball down below so you can check out everything that Isaac's got going on. So thank you guys. Thank you, Isaac. We'll see you in the next video.
Thanks, guys.